Katie was born and raised in a family filled with misfortune. Her mother often neglected the two siblings, leaving them in the care of their godmother, Linda Inghilleri. But life at Linda's house was not much better. Katie and her brother John were treated poorly like slaves. And worst of all, Linda's husband Salvatore had repeatedly abused both children. In the shadows of abuse and neglect, a suspicious figure began to appear in Katie's life. John Esposito, a 43-year-old construction contractor, was an acquaintance of the Beers family. He often gave gifts and showed concern for Katie and her brother. But behind his kind exterior was a monster in human disguise. Esposito had previously been convicted of conspiring to kidnap a 7-year-old boy in 1977, but somehow avoided prison time. And now he was targeting Katie and John as his next victims. On December 28, 1992, just 2 days before Katie's 10th birthday, Esposito offered to take her shopping for a birthday gift. For a child starved for affection like Katie, this offer was hard to refuse. She eagerly followed Esposito out of the house, unaware that this would be the beginning of the most horrifying 17 days of her life. Instead of taking Katie to the shopping mall as promised, Esposito drove straight to his own home. The house stood isolated from the surrounding residential area, surrounded by dense trees. Esposito lived alone in a small apartment above the garage, far from the main house of his family. Katie entered Esposito's house with the innocence of a 9-year-old child. She had no idea that beneath the normal facade of this house was a terrifying underground world waiting for her. Esposito led Katie to the bedroom and let her play video games. But it wasn't long before his true nature began to show. When Esposito made advances, Katie firmly refused. This angered the kidnapper. In a moment, Katie realized she was in danger. She tried to escape, but it was too late. With superior strength, Esposito grabbed Katie and dragged her down to the basement. Under 2 layers of carpet was a 200-pound concrete door, cleverly disguised behind a removable bookcase. Esposito opened the door and pushed Katie into a dark, 6-foot-long tunnel. Katie's heart pounded in her chest as she was dragged through the narrow tunnel. At the end of the tunnel was a concrete bunker about 6 by 7 feet in size. This was where Esposito had quietly prepared for years to hold his victims. The bunker was fully equipped: a small bed, a TV, a toilet, and a surveillance camera system. Everything was meticulously prepared, just waiting for the day Katie would be brought down here. As she looked around the bunker in utter horror, Katie suddenly remembered something terrifying. She had played on the pile of dirt dug up from this hole a few years ago. At the time, she had no idea she was playing on what would become her own future grave. Esposito wasted no time. He immediately began implementing his pre-planned scheme to cover up his crime. He forced Katie to record a fake message saying she had been kidnapped by a stranger. "Aunt Linda, a man has kidnapped me. He has a knife and... oh no, he's coming." Katie sobbed into the recorder, trying to follow Esposito's orders. After obtaining the recording, Esposito left the house and drove to the Spaceplex arcade in Niconset. He used a public phone outside to play Katie's fake message. Then he pretended to panic and ran into the arcade, telling staff he had just lost Katie inside. Esposito's act successfully fooled everyone. Police were quickly called to the scene and the search for Katie began. While the entire town of Bay Shore was in turmoil over Katie's mysterious disappearance, the girl was enduring horrific hours underground. Esposito repeatedly came down to the bunker and violated Katie. Each time he allowed her to move around the bunker, but before leaving chained her to a small cell barely bigger than a coffin. Katie tried to keep her spirits up in her desperate situation. She found comfort in the TV, her only window to the outside world. Through the small screen, Katie followed news reports of the police search. Every time she saw her image on TV, Katie felt a glimmer of hope in her soul. But Esposito had no intention of letting Katie go. He told her he would keep her there for life. He even threatened to take photos of Katie with her eyes closed as if dead to send to the police. But the girl adamantly refused, always trying to stay alert for fear of being photographed while asleep. During those dark days underground, Katie never stopped thinking of ways to escape this hell. She secretly obtained the key to her chains, allowing her to move freely in the bunker when Esposito was away. However, The heavy concrete door remained an insurmountable barrier. Katie understood that physical strength alone could not help her escape. She began to think about using her intelligence. Katie decided to play on the kidnapper's psychology. She constantly asked Esposito about the future, forcing him to face the reality that he could not keep her forever. When I asked Esposito how I would go to school, he said he would teach me what I needed to know. When I asked how I would work, he said he had enough money to support us both. When I asked about marriage and having children, he said he would marry me when I turned 18 and we would have children, Katie later recounted. Katie's constant questions gradually shook Esposito's resolve, making him increasingly anxious and uneasy. Meanwhile, the police investigation was closing in on Esposito. They quickly identified him as the prime suspect due to his prior child abduction record and close relationship with Katie's family. Investigators also discovered that the call reporting Katie's disappearance was a recording because there was no background noise. Witnesses at Spaceplex confirmed seeing only Esposito arrive there alone on the day Katie vanished. Police set up a surveillance station right on Esposito's lawn, just meters from the bunker. They monitored his every move 24/7, hoping to find clues about Katie's whereabouts. However, no one suspected that the girl was being held captive right beneath their feet. The bunker was built too solidly and soundproofed perfectly. None of Katie's cries for help could escape. Under constant police surveillance, Esposito became increasingly tense and lost his composure. He realized he could not continue to conceal his crime forever. The combination of pressure from the investigation and Katie's psychological tactics finally took effect. After 17 days of holding Katie captive, Esposito decided to surrender. On January 13, 1993, Esposito contacted his lawyer and confessed to his crime. He led police officers to the secret bunker, where they found Katie still alive. The moment the concrete door opened and light flooded into the dark bunker, Katie knew the nightmare was finally over. She burst into tears as rescue workers carried her out of the underground hell. News of Katie's rescue spread quickly, shocking the entire United States. Images of the thin, pale girl being brought out of the bunker appeared on all television channels. The public was both relieved and horrified as the gruesome details of the case were revealed. Esposito was quickly arrested and faced a slew of serious charges. He pleaded guilty to kidnapping on June 16, 1994, and was sentenced to life in prison with a minimum of 15 years before parole eligibility. 10 other charges, including sexual abuse and endangering the life of a child, were dropped in exchange for his guilty plea. Esposito would pay for his crime with the rest of his life behind bars. However, Katie's story did not end there. During the investigation of the kidnapping, authorities uncovered another horrifying truth. Salvatore, the husband of Katie's godmother Linda, had abused Katie before the kidnapping occurred. He was convicted on 2 counts of sexual abuse and sentenced to 12 years in prison. Salvatore died in prison in 2009, taking his sins to the grave. After being rescued, Katie faced a new challenge, reintegrating into normal life. She had suffered severe psychological trauma and needed special care. Fortunately, a family in East Hampton, New York, adopted Katie. They provided her with a safe, loving, and stable environment that she had never had in the first 10 years of her life. Katie's new family completely changed her life. They sent her to school, carefully educated her, and protected her from media attention. Under their care and love, Katie gradually recovered and thrived. She began to realize her potential and nurture dreams of a brighter future. Years later, Katie looked back and realized that the kidnapping, although horrific, was a turning point in her life. Ironically, being kidnapped was the best thing that happened to me because it got me out of the abusive situation, Katie shared. The painful experience had helped her escape her previous toxic environment and gave her the opportunity to start a new life. As an adult, Katie decided to use her story to inspire and help others. In January 2013, exactly 20 years after the kidnapping, Katie, now married with 2 children, spoke publicly for the first time about her horrific experience at age 9. She became an inspirational speaker, sharing her story at schools, organizations, and conferences across the country. Katie also co-authored a memoir, Buried Memories, detailing her time in captivity and journey to recovery. The book quickly became a bestseller, attracting readers worldwide. Through its pages, Katie not only shared her story, but also conveyed a message about the power of hope and human resilience in overcoming adversity. Katie's story has inspired many and raised awareness about child abuse. She frequently collaborates with child protection organizations, sharing her experience to help improve child protection systems and support abuse victims. Katie emphasizes the importance of speaking up and seeking help when in danger. I grew up in a world where abuse was hidden and unreported. It went unreported because the community didn't know it was happening, because they turned a blind eye, ignored it, or didn't know where to report it, Katie shared. She is determined to change this situation, encouraging people to open their eyes, listen, and act when they see signs of abuse. Katie Beers' story is not just a shocking case, but also a valuable lesson about the strength of the human spirit. From an abused and kidnapped little girl, Katie has risen to become a strong woman, a loving mother, and a dedicated social activist. She has turned her pain into motivation to help others, proving that people can overcome even the most horrific experiences to live a meaningful and fulfilling life. The Katie Beers case also raised many questions about the child protection system and how society deals with child abuse. How could someone like Esposito, with a prior child abduction conviction, have such easy access to Katie and her brother? Why weren't the signs of abuse in the Beers family detected earlier? These questions led to many reforms in the child protection system in New York and across the United States. Katie's story also highlights the importance of listening to and believing children. Throughout her captivity, Katie never stopped trying to keep her spirits up and find a way out. The little girl's intelligence and resilience played a crucial role in her survival and eventual rescue. This shows that children are capable of dealing with difficult situations better than we might think, and adults need to equip children with the necessary skills to protect themselves. The Katie Beers case also highlighted the important role of media in searching for missing children. Although Katie was held captive just meters from Esposito's residence, it was the pressure from the investigation and public attention that ultimately led Esposito to surrender. This emphasizes the importance of maintaining public attention on missing children cases, even as time passes. Today, Katie Beers continues to be a strong voice for children's rights and victims of abuse. She frequently appears in the media to share her story and raise awareness about child abuse. Katie also participates in training programs for police, social workers, and other professionals on how to recognize and respond to signs of child abuse. Despite having gone through horrific experiences, Katie maintains a positive outlook on life. She often says that she doesn't define herself by what happened in the past, but by what she has accomplished since then. Katie is a living testament to the strength of the human spirit and the ability to overcome adversity to live a full and meaningful life. Katie Beers' story will continue to be told for years to come as a warning about the dangers of child abuse and as an inspiration for those facing adversity. It reminds us that even in the worst circumstances, there is always hope and the possibility of rising above fate to create a brighter future.